does is significant.
Well, I asked a few people about this, including those who covered TCU. This one hurt. Damonic Williams entered the transfer portal today. He was a true freshman All-American as a freshman, of course, 2022. Last year, All Big 12, 2023. There he is with a chokehold. And Chris Hummer had this, among others. Our buddy Jeremy Clark, who covers TCU, Damonic Williams, a defensive lineman, has entered the portal, and I saw many of the responses. Man, this one is going to hurt.
Yeah, that one stings at TCU. He's a stalwart in the middle of that defensive line for them. Takes up, 6'2", 320, big dude. And now probably, as far as his position goes and his accomplishments, outside of a couple other guys, becomes one of the, I think he's probably a top 5 pursued player as of right now, which, again, if you're Damonic Williams and you see that defensive tackle is the position that everybody needs, if you took the survey and called around, especially to the teams that are national championship contenders, you call up Georgia, what's your biggest need? Defensive tackle. You call up LSU, what's your biggest need? Well, anything on defense but defensive tackle. All of them want defensive tackles. Ole Miss is really the only one who significantly addressed it by getting Walter Nolan, and the rest of,
But he can't play all the time.
No, exactly. So, again, if you put this guy next to somebody who's also good, there's a lot of teams and ones that are going to be contenders that still need this position.
Well, when we did the biggest storylines of the transfer portal yesterday, we mentioned one of the position of the biggest need for anybody is not quarterback, because most of those have been filled, is at the defensive line position, and Williams he'll be coveted, if not already contacted by many.
Yeah, I saw Oklahoma, I think, might be interested in him. A&M. I don't know about Texas, but I feel like I might have seen something in passing, and maybe that's just because I saw Oklahoma and A&M, and I'm just connecting them with that as well. But, just start there, and that means you're going to have probably pretty lucrative offers coming your way when those are your kind of starting point schools, and not to mention whoever else throws their hat into the ring. I think just for starters, it's a huge blow for TCU. I don't know how expected it was, although apparently there was some at least a couple of tweets I saw that indicated this might have been sort of, I guess, previewed last fall of maybe there were some thoughts that he was already looking around. I don't know that to be sure. It was just a couple of notes that I had seen. But regardless, how prepared for it they were or not, this is a heavy blow, literally and figuratively for them. Defensive linemen, defensive tackles in particular, big dudes like that that can be disruptive and eat up a lot of ground. They don't grow on trees, and they are the most coveted type of player in all of, college football, to be certain. So, yeah, this is a guy who's going to go make I imagine a good amount of money. He's going to have a lot of teams coming after him, and TCU's going to have a whale of a time trying to now replace him. Now, if they had a little bit of forewarning, then maybe they were able to kind of put some plans in motion, but you can't just go out and grab a guy like this. No. And without having to go pay the toll for it. So, yeah, this is significant news for the Frogs in a negative way, and it will be a significant addition for whatever team ends up picking up Damonic Williams. But this is the era we live in now, and this is what's kind of hard as a fan is those who probably grew to love him and were like, man, imagine how good he's going to be, year 3, if he gets to year 4. Now he's not even on your team suddenly. So that stinks, but it's part of the deal. You live, you adjust, and looking forward to seeing where he lands, but that does, deliver a bit of a body blow to Sonny Dykes and the Horned Frogs.
We'll have Sam Kahn coming up at 3:30. His thoughts on some of the news from today. So
I would like to see on the transfer rankings, and I don't know, I haven't been able to look around, but I do feel like we have as much tools now at our disposal as possible when it comes to rankings and things like that. But probably need to separate the guys who have already committed in the last couple of months from this new group, because I don't think Damonic Williams is going to be a top-ranked player based on all of the guys that have transferred so far because there's like 50 quarterbacks, But
for the spring portal, though.
For the spring portal, I would imagine he's got to be one of the top guys on the top of the list. But when you take into account the totality of the entire 2 waves so far, I don't think he's up there near the top. But, in the spring, he's definitely one of the biggest players available now.
A couple of notes. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But On3 has a database that you can put best available on there, and I don't think they have put him on there for defensive tackle just yet because, again, it was just today. So
right,
I'm sure.
Happened.
Yeah, I'm sure his profile will pop up on there pretty soon.
But if you go to the rankings, it's like Walter.
No, go ahead.
I mean, we want to talk about something we want to talk about. Walter Nolan's on the top of the list, so he's, a guy who's already been enrolled, and so he's still at the top of the rankings. So, we'll see, I'm sure, a refreshed rankings list when it all settles down. But, he'll be up there near the top.
Well, again, that's why you need to split them. For what happened right after December or in that first window compared to what we have now with this second window that runs through. And there will be a bunch that flood the gates, you would think, after the spring games coming up this weekend. Colorado. Let's get to them. They've lost some players. They'll gain a bunch. That's what they've done with Dion. But former Colorado star recruit, 5-star recruit, Cormani McClain, telling Blue Bloods Bias that on a scale of 1 to 10, it was an 11. It ain't on my end. It's on their end, confirming that he was entering the transfer portal. That could be sour grapes. That could be he wasn't going to play. That could be he didn't like the way Dion called him out. And that could be because he's miserable. I don't know, but that was interesting. Here's another thing that was interesting that came down yesterday. Shiloh Sanders, on his Instagram account, put up a note. Defense transfers DM me. Offensive transfers DM Shedeur.
And then at the bottom, this not last chance you.
And then also the comment, typically programs have scouting departments to identify talent and to reach out to prospective players for recruitment. Not normally. Now, players can get on there and say, hey, follow me or I'm bringing people with you. But this was interesting that last night, Shiloh and Shedeur looking for more talent to flood the Colorado roster.
Good luck to them in doing that. Again, like no offense to Shiloh and Shedeur, but they probably don't know as much as, the guys they have on staff that are talent evaluators.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose they do know what their dad's looking for and what they're looking for this season. I don't know how that plays long term. I don't know how long term the Sanders are going to be in Boulder, Colorado. However, I mean, the players, the brothers, are going to be gone in a year, less than a year, and Dion, we will see how the course of his career in Boulder goes. We know he's at least going to be around for this upcoming season, but. Yeah, I don't think that's a good look. I mean, I think on the one hand, you could probably spin that if you're a Buffs fan and say, look at the players. It's a player-led team. They're taking control, and the whole this is not last chance you comment. They're staying away from the riffraff or not letting players who think that this is going to be like, a Netflix show that they're joining up to be a part of, or this is going to be some free and easy ride. I think there is good messaging in that this isn't just – some Netflix show. This isn't some gimmick. This is like football, and we're looking for real, dogs, for lack of a better term, because that's how Dion would probably phrase it. But at the same time, that's the positive spin on it. The other side of it would be Dion's kids are basically now the personnel guys for Colorado football.
Yeah.
Well,
like that's alarming.
Center. Yeah.
That's not good, I don't think.
Traffic cops, I guess, for the comes to the portal for what the Buffaloes are trying to figure out.
How many times have you seen this happens in the NFL a lot. Like, we got to get this wide receiver in here because he's a stud and he can play. Like, it's usually other wide receivers like, come and play with me. And that's all well and good. But usually, like, how many people want Odell Beckham Jr. because they're like, Odell Beckham Jr. was awesome. And like, well, 2 ACL tears and Achilles tear, he's not really junior anything anymore. Like he's kind of past that. So if you ask players who they want, players are going to say, like, give me the big names. I want to be part of this, especially the flashier guys. Sometimes, again, it's not about flash, which I know is the Sanders whole vibe as a family, but you do need Army ants in there with you.
Yeah, you got to have a few of those that aren't the millionaires, and even NFL rosters need that. You can't have an entire team of all pros. I saw where an Arizona defensive lineman Their linebackers coach now is at Texas. He's in the portal. He's visiting Texas, like it maybe even in Austin right now. Here's a couple of other notes about the portal, one including Ja'Cory Brown, a very talented, highly ranked quarterback who has entered the portal from Miami. Now, that's one story. The other story is this. Paul, who is Uncle Luke Real?
Uncle Luke from
No, this is
the rapper.
Yes, that's who it is.
Yeah.
He gets on there and he starts calling out Shannon Dawson, Miami's staff. You're the offensive coordinator. This is on your face. You better have a solid second-string quarterback and a starting quarterback for next year in that room. This is football town. We know football. Ray Charles could have saw that he was clearly the second-best quarterback on the team during the spring and also bowl game. Mr. Brown, may God be with you. Great. I will always be a fan of yours because you chose the university. Unfortunately, the university did not choose you.
Yeah. Well, Uncle Luke has always been, like, he was Miami's NIL before there was NIL. For sure, for a lot of players. Ask Warren Sapp about Uncle Luke and his friendship. They were buddies back in the day. So, and moving on down the line, the 01 Miami team, Uncle Luke was there a lot. But Ja'Cory Brown could not break the starting lineup of quarterbacks that weren't really all that good. He did have a win against Georgia Tech. And look, Shannon Dawson is taking a ton of heat from the Miami fans, but that's because they haven't been that good on offense yet. They had that terrible loss to Georgia Tech last year. Look, they didn't score, big points against their rivals either. So, yeah, people are on him. But, look, Ja'Cory Brown's not going to start this year for Miami. Cam Ward's going to start. They went out and got Reese Poffenbarger for a reason because they wanted some protection against Ja'Cory Brown probably trying to go find a place where he could start, and that's going to be that. I don't know if Uncle Luke is right or not. We'll see. But Cam Ward's going to be the quarterback this year. And if Cam Ward's hurt, I'm sorry, but Ja'Cory Brown is not going to help them win to the level that Cam Ward was. That just not was going to happen.
Uncle Luke's been a mainstay around Miami for eternity now. Yeah. I mean, he's been around the program as long as I can remember, so he's a super fan is what he is, and I'm sure to some extent a booster or whatever. But, yeah, that's a too long didn't read in some ways there, the message that he had. He needs to be saying that to his head coach, but I guess that's the route that he's taken to get that message out there and also to rile up the public and the rest of the Canes fans. And mission accomplished, because I think a lot of them are feeling the same way. But this is that era. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You know, you go recruit a guy, but you bring in Cam Ward. What are you expecting? What's the young guy going to do? You sit there and wait another year when he could go out and probably get a new NIL deal and, have a fresh starting point. So the days of having the, big time, just about ready to boil and then move on after a year quarterback, and then having the guy, the young player waiting in the wings and all those types of things, it's going to be commonplace at some spots. Like Texas can do it because they've got Sark and they've got big money and they've got a desirable landing spot in a situation right now where, it's working out okay, Ewers to Arch Manning, but that's not going to be the case at every place. And especially with how, the transfer portal is crazy, but it's particularly crazy for quarterbacks. So, I think Miami fans have every right to be a little upset, but I think this is just part of what you're getting nowadays with college football. Is it's going to be hard to hang on to, quarterbacks in particular, but young players who have a good amount of talent. So he will be an interesting one to watch.
I want to do one more. This is news from this afternoon that was already discussed, already said it was going to be passed, but today NCAA, the council changes transfer rules, permits immediate eligibility for transfers who are academically eligible, in good standing at a previous school, and meet progress towards a degree requirements at new school. Decision not final until they meet sometime at the end of the day on Thursday, ratified by Division I board on Monday. It must be, but this was something we knew was coming. This is yet another, also because of the injunctions. And so now you could transfer. You still cannot transfer within the same season. In case there is concerns, like you're at Alabama, you want to transfer, you're going to play at Mississippi State in 3 or 4 weeks in the same semester. You cannot do that.
Well, and you also can't go SEC to SEC this window, which has been a big talking point, and I'm sure Greg Sankey will field a lot of questions about that as time moves on. But we talked about a situation like that yesterday. I mentioned the head coach had left Alabama, so we were talking about who was it, Isaiah Bond, but also came to learn, because I want clarity of my own, make sure know what we're talking about. But I think in that first window, it's okay to transfer SEC to SEC. It's this spring window where it's disallowed. So that's why Isaiah Bond ×2 was freely available. But yeah, this transfer rule has been coming down the pipeline. We knew that, and I don't think it's good for the game. I don't. I think it's not great to have this level of player movement. Some freedom of movement is great. You don't want to restrict them and make it, you got to sit out a year. I think that is too archaic, and that doesn't belong in today's game either. But just keep your head above water, which is basically impossible not to do unless you have a learning disability. In college, you have so much help, and you have so many people trying to make sure that you stay eligible. I mean, think about how many times you've seen your team, and you know they're not all Harvard grads, and they all magically stay eligible all year long when they need to, right? And so it's kind of hard to see a situation where somebody's not going to be academically eligible to transfer. So everybody would be able to freely move, and I just don't think that's great. Now, it might be great for if you want to cite specific examples, like player A came from a rough background and he's going to make several $100,000 by bouncing around to 3 schools in 4 years, okay? That could be life-changing. He might start a business and become a millionaire for all we know. But that's going to be few and far between.
Right.
Most of the others are just going to be bouncing from allegiance to allegiance, and I think it sucks. I think, I've seen a lot of, if you don't like it, well, then don't watch. Well, a lot of people aren't going to probably, and if you don't like it, then you better get used to it, and we'll get used to it. Doesn't mean we have to like it, though,
right.
And I just don't like the kind of mercenary ball that's going on right now, even if it has had shades of that in the past.
This is unlimited transfer.
Yeah.
This is like transfer as many times as you want.
Play at 5 schools in 5 years if you want to.
Yeah. And Gina,